What if I told you that Steph Curry just dropped the biggest clue yet about why Caitlin Clark's shot has suddenly fallen off? And no, it's not just a slump, it's something deeper, something that could change the way the Indiana Fever handle her entire career. What Curry said wasn't some throwaway comment, it was a revelation, and if you connect the dots, it lines up perfectly with what we've been seeing from Caitlin Clark all season long. Welcome back to Her Hoops, your home for no-filter WNBA takes, unfiltered drama, and the real stories the league doesn't want to admit. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and let's break this down, because this one's about to rattle both the NBA and the WNBA world.
Steph Curry in an interview with LeBron James, and him saying something that relates all the way back to one of my favorite NBA coaches of all time. I'm in Texas, so a guy that coached the Dallas Mavericks for a very long time. In fact, I'm not sure a lot of people realize Don Nelson is the coach with the most wins in NBA history. Don Nelson was a hell of a basketball coach.
Steph Curry was sitting down with LeBron James and Steve Nash when he told a story from his rookie days about how lifting too much weight almost destroyed his shot. His coach at the time, the legendary Don Nelson, literally stormed into the gym and cussed out the staff.
The Indiana Fever just hired this guy, all right? Rob Dossier, something like that. He comes to the staff as a player development coach. Great. Keith Porter's also a coach there. Caitlin Clark has evidently liked this as someone that's going to be there around the program training. Now, we know recently I did a video, Chris Brickley, who is a coach to, well, basically all the greats in the NBA right now. I mean, LeBron James, Kevin Durant.
Why? Because Curry was struggling to shoot after putting on extra muscle. Sound familiar? Fast forward to Caitlin Clark, who came into her rookie season with all the pressure in the world, all the physical punishment from defenders, and all the advice to bulk up. The Fever wanted her stronger, tougher, and ready for contact. But what if that rush to build her body actually broke her rhythm? Steph's warning is a red flag for anyone who's been paying attention.
They were telling baseball players to not lift weights. It'll mess up your swing. My best friend was a pitcher that had quite a few Major League Baseball tryouts. He was like all district here, one of the big state players, and ended up playing semi-pro baseball. I mean, he wasn't allowed to lift weights. He was 2 years older than me. And it was funny enough, we started lifting weights when we were 19.
Caitlin's shot mechanics look just a hair off. Her release slower, her lift heavier. It's not just fatigue, it's a biomechanical shift. And when the best shooter in basketball says lifting weights ruined his shot, it's time to start asking questions. Because if the Fever really pushed her to change her body too fast, they may have unintentionally done what no defense in the league could. They might have broken her shot. Before we jump to conclusions, let's rewind a bit, because this didn't happen overnight. Caitlin Clark's shot has always been her superpower.
You know, but when it comes to shooting a basketball, keeping your flexibility, all these things when you start lifting weights can come into question. We know Caitlin Clark, she got the crap beat out of her last year. She tried to put on some weight. We all thought she probably should put on some weight for some armor, considering the league was letting her get clotheslined out there. And we've wondered, okay, did it?
From the moment she stepped on an NCAA court, she made defenders look helpless. Deep threes, off-balance fadeaways, logo pull-ups, it was poetry in motion. That natural rhythm, that effortless lift, that's what made her Caitlin Clark. But once she entered the WNBA, everything changed. The physicality was real. Defenders were bodying her every possession, bumping her off screens, contesting every release. The Indiana Fever, desperate to protect their rookie superstar, started focusing on her strength, weight training, core work, resistance programs.
And I heard this, and you guys, if you've watched this channel for 2 years, I've always described Caitlin Clark as being what? The hybrid love child of Steph Curry and Larry Bird. Right? She shoots like Curry and Bird and passes like Bird and John Stockton. But You get the point. This is starting to make the rounds, and Fever fans are very much noticing this.
The message was clear: bulk up or get beaten down. At first, it made sense. The league was rough. She was getting knocked to the floor almost every game. Fans and analysts were shouting, she needs to put on muscle. So she did, and fast. Too fast. And that's exactly what Steph Curry was warning about. In that conversation with LeBron James and Steve Nash, Curry revealed that early in his career, he too was told to add weight, to get stronger, to handle contact. But Don Nelson, the winningest coach in NBA history, knew better. When Curry's shot suddenly went cold, Nelson stopped everything, walked straight into the weight room, and exploded. He knew that Curry's greatest weapon wasn't brute strength, it was fluidity. That light, controlled balance between power and rhythm. Now look at Caitlin. Her follow-through seemed tighter, her legs less springy, her base heavier. That trademark quick release? A fraction slower. Maybe imperceptible to the casual fan, but painfully obvious to anyone who's watched her since Iowa. This isn't a mechanics problem, it's a body balance problem. The Fever tried to armor her up for the WNBA grind, but in doing so, they may have disrupted the finely tuned mechanics that made her the most electric scorer in women's basketball. And now, as the world starts catching on, even Steph Curry's words are echoing like a warning shot across the league. Let's break this down, step by step, because the connection between weight training and shooting rhythm isn't just a wild theory, it's science. Shooting a basketball isn't about raw muscle, it's about kinetic flow. Every part of the body, from the feet to the fingertips, must move in perfect sequence. When you suddenly add mass, especially to your shoulders, arms, and core, that timing can shift just enough to throw everything off. The shot might feel heavier, stiffer, or just off, even if your form looks identical on camera. That's exactly what Curry described. As he bulked up, his shot lost its arc, his release flattened out, and his range shrank. Don Nelson saw it before anyone else did. He knew the danger of strength overtaking touch. Now apply that to Caitlin Clark. She entered the league around 155 pounds. Within months, her frame looked noticeably fuller. Her shoulders broader, her stance stronger. Great for driving into contact? Maybe. But for a rhythm shooter whose power comes from fluid repetition and speed, that can be a disaster. Watch her early college tape, then compare it to her late-season Fever games. You'll notice it. Less bounce, less lift, a heavier lower half. Her shot often dies short or clanks long, classic signs of altered balance and overactivation in the upper body. This isn't an effort issue. Caitlin Clark is one of the hardest-working athletes in basketball. The problem is in how her work is being directed. The Fever's player development staff, with new trainers emphasizing strength and durability, might have overlooked the golden rule of shooters: never sacrifice rhythm for resistance. And the timing couldn't be worse, because as Steph Curry reminded everyone, once your shot mechanics are disrupted by strength training, it can take months, even an entire off-season, to get that natural feel back. So now the big question for the Fever, and for Caitlin herself, is this: did they just make her tougher at the expense of her greatness? Here's where things get messy, and honestly, this is where the Her Hoops community needs to pay attention, because this isn't just a Caitlin Clark slump. It's a full-blown internal contradiction brewing inside the Indiana Fever's development philosophy. On one hand, you've got a once-in-a-generation shooter, someone whose entire game is built on fluidity, rhythm, and release precision. On the other, you've got a coaching staff obsessed with making her stronger, sturdier, more WNBA ready. But strength and rhythm are like oil and water, and when they clash, one always loses. Steph Curry learned this the hard way, and Don Nelson saved him before it was too late. But who's saving Caitlin Clark? Let's not forget, her shot mechanics are sacred. Her motion isn't something you tinker with lightly. Yet all season long, we saw signs: tiny tweaks, slower liftoffs, extra weight in the shoulders. And now we're hearing about new player development hires, specialized strength coaches, and off-season training programs focused on bulking up even more. That's not just a concern, that's a red flag. Because when a player like Caitlin Clark starts overcompensating physically, the game shifts mentally too. Shooters start thinking about their shot, second-guessing feel, worrying about range. The smoothness disappears, replaced by hesitation. And once doubt creeps in, even the best shooters can spiral. Meanwhile, the fever seem to be doubling down. The narrative is she needs to adapt to the physicality of the league. But physicality isn't Caitlin's identity. Skill is. You don't ask a violinist to swing harder. You let her play lighter, freer, more in tune. And yet, here's the uncomfortable truth. The fever's push to make her stronger might have made her more vulnerable. Fans can already see it. Her shot percentage dipping, her legs tiring, her rhythm disappearing in crunch time. This isn't a coincidence. It's what happens when a front office misunderstands what makes a superstar special. Steph Curry's story isn't just nostalgia. It's a blueprint. He barely escaped that same trap 15 years ago. Caitlin Clark? She's living it right now. Now let's get technical, because what's happening with Caitlin Clark isn't just about the eye test. It's about biomechanics, repetition, and confidence colliding in real time. When a shooter like Caitlin lifts, even small changes, extra tension in the shoulders, tighter hips, slower extension through the knees, can throw off the delicate chain that powers her shot. Shooting is all about energy transfer. Legs generate power, the core stabilizes, and the upper body releases. Add 10 to 15 pounds of new mass, and suddenly that rhythm has to be relearned. Steph Curry put it perfectly. You can't change how your body moves and expect the same results. That's not opinion, that's physiology. When Curry overtrained, his shot felt heavy. His touch went flat. Don Nelson knew immediately what was wrong. Too much weight, not enough motion. So he shut the weight room down. He told Steph, he doesn't need to be stronger, he needs to be Steph. But Caitlin doesn't have a Don Nelson. She's got a committee of strength coaches, trainers, and executives who seem more focused on protecting her than perfecting her. The result? A disconnect between who she was and who they're trying to make her become. You can see it in her form. The slightly reduced lift in her jump, the stiffer wrist snap, the shorter arc. These are microscopic shifts, but for elite shooters, they're catastrophic. Because the shot isn't just muscle memory, it's mind memory. Once that internal rhythm is disrupted, confidence becomes fragile. And when the mind hesitates, the ball follows. Now, imagine the pressure she's under. The media watching every miss, fans dissecting every dip in her shooting percentage, analysts questioning if she's lost her magic. It's not just physical, it's psychological warfare. Meanwhile, Steph Curry's words are circulating across the internet. His story is suddenly being linked to Caitlin's, as fans and former players whisper the same thing. Did the fever mess this up? Because this isn't just about a few missed threes. It's about what happens when a generational player gets pushed into becoming something she's not. And if the fever don't course correct fast, Caitlin might spend her next season trying to find the old her, the version who never missed. What's happening with Caitlin Clark isn't just an individual story. It's a mirror reflecting how the WNBA develops its stars and what it values most: power or precision. Because this isn't the first time we've seen this pattern. The league keeps preaching physicality. Every rookie, especially the ones with flair and finesse, are told the same thing: you need to get stronger. But stronger doesn't always mean better, especially when it comes to shooting touch and basketball IQ. Caitlin Clark's situation exposes a bigger cultural tension inside women's basketball. The WNBA wants to prove it's tough, rugged, and equal in intensity to the NBA. But in that pursuit, are they unintentionally stripping away what makes their stars special? Think about it. Caitlin Clark, the biggest draw in women's basketball history, isn't known for power plays. She's known for artistry, for logos that make crowds gasp, for that effortless range that turns a 20-point deficit into a viral highlight reel. That's what made fans fall in love with her. That's what brought record-breaking ratings and sold-out arenas. But when you force an artist into a bodybuilder's program, you risk losing the magic. This goes beyond the fever. It's about the entire infrastructure of player development in the WNBA. Too often, male trainers from NBA backgrounds are hired to toughen up women's players, using systems designed for male athletes with totally different physiology. The intention might be good, but the results? Not always. Steph Curry's warning isn't a coincidence. It's a flashing red light. If the greatest shooter ever had to unlearn bad training habits just to rediscover his touch, how can a WNBA rookie be expected to thrive under the same mistake? The WNBA should be building around its shooters, not reshaping them, and Caitlin Clark is the test case. Her success or struggle could redefine how the league approaches skill development for the next generation. Because if the WNBA wants to keep its stars shining, it has to remember, the future of the game isn't built in the weight room. It's born in rhythm, creativity, and confidence. And right now, all three are hanging in the balance for Caitlin Clark. Here's the truth that no one in the Fever organization wants to say out loud, but fans, players, and even legends like Steph Curry are beginning to whisper it everywhere. Caitlin Clark doesn't need to be stronger. She needs to be herself. Her game was never built on overpowering opponents. It was built on precision, timing, and the kind of creative rhythm that made basketball feel like art again. She brought back the joy, the unpredictability, that made people fall in love with the sport in the first place. And somewhere along the way, the system tried to fix what was never broken. Steph's story wasn't just nostalgia from a Hall of Famer. It was a blueprint, a warning for every coach, trainer, and front office executive who thinks more muscle automatically means more success. It doesn't. For shooters, sometimes it means less feel, less flow, less freedom. And when Don Nelson stormed into that gym years ago and told the staff to stop messing with Curry's body, he wasn't just saving a player, he was saving a style. A way of playing the game that emphasized grace over grind, finesse over force. Caitlin Clark represents that same lineage. She's the WNBA's answer to that philosophy. The bridge between instinct and innovation. The Fever have a choice to make this offseason. They can double down on the idea that she needs to become tougher, that she needs to bulk up, hit harder, play their way. Or they can step back and realize, the greatest strength she'll ever have is her lightness. Because when Caitlin Clark is free, mentally, physically, and creatively, she's unstoppable. That's when those 30-foot daggers fall like rain. That's when her court vision looks otherworldly. That's when her hoops community lights up, because we know we're watching something rare, something that can't be taught, only unleashed. So yeah, Steph Curry might have just exposed the truth. The Fever's push to toughen her up might have been their biggest mistake. But it's not too late. Caitlin can bounce back. She can rediscover that perfect rhythm, the same one that made her a household name. But it starts with one decision: trusting her instincts, not the iron. Because legends aren't built in the weight room. They're forged in the moments when everyone else doubts you, and you rise anyway. And if anyone can rise again, it's Caitlin Clark.